Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Friends and Pals podcast. Today, we are going to be revisiting a topic that we talked about last time and doing a D&D character sheet. I honestly don't really know what the hell is in store for us this episode, so I'm just going to kind of bring it over to Alex right away so he can explain to everybody what's going on.
Yeah, so today we're just gonna be building a character sheet, kind of building off our episode a couple weeks ago, doing a little bit of an introduction to D&D. For this video, we're just making one online on Roll20. Roll20 is a really good way of playing and kind of DMing for D&D that's completely online. Don't need any physical copies of anything to use it. But yeah, there might be a couple of kinks to work out in it as we go along, but Roll20 is really good to use for online play. All right. So, your first step here is you're going to want to choose what race you're going to be. I'll get you a list here. Generally, when I'm running a campaign, I give the entire list of races and beyond. There's also a website called D&D Beyond where they host a whole bunch of stuff, and they put the base races, which is what I'm going to give you, and then they have races for every single expansion that's ever come out for it. So when I run a campaign, I usually just send the link, and I'm like, literally anything from in here is fine. But for this, we'll keep it simple, and I'll just send you a couple of them. The ones that you're going to generally be familiar with without needing any other information about them.
Anyway, first step is to choose your race. So we've got 9 races that you can choose from on here. I usually open up the floor to literally anything, but we're gonna stick with 9 because I feel like it's a good starting point for them. So you've got dwarf, you've got elf, you've got halfling, human, dragonborn, gnome, half elf, half orc, and tiefling.
Before I pick here, can I get the most basic breakdown of my benefits and of each class, I guess? Just basic, if you can. I don't know. You could probably go into that for a couple hours alone.
Yeah, so for a quick explanation of it, I guess, dwarves are typically short and stocky, they're hardy, you get along well with other dwarves, but in terms of raw benefits, you're not very fast. You have bigger constitution, which means you are kind of built you're built in with more HP and you're hardier generally. Like it takes more to bring you down. But other than that, I mean, you're not super agile, but you know a lot about stoneworking and you have dark vision. But generally, the stat based increase there is Constitution score goes up when you pick dwarf, so you're hardier. For elves, I'm pretty sure that bonus goes to agility, dexterity. The agility is not a base stat. Dexterity is what it goes to instead. Elves are typically, they move really well. I mean, I guess I don't really have to go any further into it than that. Halflings, think Frodo from Lord of the Rings. When you think of a halfling, they're hobbits. And their dexterity score is also increased by 2, but they're like the smaller, more agile version of a dwarf. Like you are not quite an elf. You're about the height of a dwarf, but you still move really well and you can fit into small places typically. Humans, I mean, you're a human. You get just an overall kind of 1 point goes into every ability score. You get an overall buff on everything. It's nobody wants to be a human. But they're definitely they can be a good choice just because you get that across the board ability score increase that can be super helpful, but they're also a lot less specialized than other races. Dragonborn, you are pretty much descended from dragons. I mean, you're like a big lizard looking thing, and your strength score goes up by 2 and your charisma score goes up by 1, so you're a little more charismatic and you are a little more strong just because they're fucking huge. But they also can wield magic based on charisma. I believe that might be a homebrew that one of my players uses. But yeah, you have a higher charisma score and a higher strength score, which will allow you to talk better and hit better. Gnomes, you get an intelligence score increase. That's usually something that goes along with magic, but they're typically also like they can be engineers, researchers, they're builders. They're not typically fighters, but they can be anywhere from like healer to mage, something in there, just because of that intelligence score buff. For half elf, charisma up by 2, and 2 other scores of your choice by 1. So it's kind of half and half between human and elf, but instead of agility, it's charisma. Half orc is strength by 2 and constitution by 1. So they're hardy and strong. And for tiefling, intelligence by 1 and charisma by 2. So tiefling gets you bigger charisma as well as a better intelligence score for magic if you choose to go down that route. But yeah, it's all kind of depends on how you want to build your character. Like, do you want them to be a little like, do you want to be like a fighter up front swinging with a sword? Do you want to be in the back swinging your mace? Do you want to be a rogue kind of climbing up a tree and trying to get a drop on them?
I think for my first character, I kind of want to be a bit of a brute.
Okay. So half orc could be a good one, just because they get the strength. So would Dragonborn, dwarf.
Let's go Dragonborn.
Okay, Dragonborn. So in the Roll20 here, in the top, kind of just type Dragonborn into the race. And then, so for each of the races, there's like a sub race you can choose. Like dwarves can be hill dwarves or mountain dwarves. Elves can be high elves or dark elves. Not dark elves, what elves? So for the Dragonborn, you get draconic ancestry. So from this table, you can be a black, a blue, a brass, a bronze, a copper, gold, green, red, silver, or white dragon. So pick a color pretty much, except for like purple. Red is an option. All right. Subrace, and then in subrace, just put red. And your breath weapon that Dragonborn comes with is going to be a fire breath weapon. And we'll get to that in a bit. So then beyond that, you pick your class. And I'll send you a list of the classes too, because there's plenty of them. But these ones are going to be more self-explanatory than the races.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm going for kind of like a brute character, should I go for fighter?
Yeah, if you're going for something that's going to be upfront and swinging, the difference between barbarian and fighter is fighter has kind of some semblance of safety. Barbarians, you run in, you swing, and you hope for the best.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be completely like reckless, but I want to be kind of a brute.
Okay. Then yeah, I'd say that one's a good one. There's the drop down, so in class, if you hit the drop down menu,
Oh, I see. Okay, nope, I see it. I got you.
all right, and then choose fighter in there. And then subclass, I don't think that applies. Okay, subclass is not important right now. Subclass is something that comes into play at 3rd level, but we're just going to create a level 1 character, so it's not going to be something we're going to have to worry about. First thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out your ability scores. So there are 3 ways to do this for ability scores from what I've ran. You can either do the point buy system, which we're not going to do because it takes a long time, and it's number crunching and mathematics to try and figure that out. There is dice rolling, in which you get 6 random numbers to work with. And then there is the standard array, which is you just get 6 numbers and you can place them where you want to put them. So I guess we could either go with the dice rolling one or the standard array, if you just want to get numbers and plug them in. Otherwise, if you want to roll, get random stuff.
I'm kind of down to roll if you're down.
I'm going to send you the numbers that you have to choose from. Honestly, I don't think you have any like bad numbers in there. They're all, Honestly, they're all pretty good, all things considered. So your 6 numbers are 10, 12, 17, 17, 8, and 14, which honestly is a pretty good one. Like 17s are big numbers. Okay. So with these 6 numbers on the left of the character sheet below the name, there is a list of there's like boxes. You see strength, you see dexterity, constitution. So out of those 6 numbers, you have 6 scores there, and you get to choose where you want to place them. And it depends on how you want to develop your character, obviously. So the little numbers right below the big zeros that you see, the 10s, those are what you're actually changing. So you're going to change the 10 to whatever you want the number in that spot to be.
Would it be advisable to use one of my 17s for strength since I want to be a brute?
Yes, absolutely. Because strength is going to be what you're using to attack. So absolutely. Especially with the Dragonborn increase, they get to strength too.
Would it be a decent idea to add another 17 to my dexterity as well if I want to be able to be brutish? Or is that not a good correlation?
Not dexterity. Dexterity is mostly for agility and doing like things quickly. Um I wouldn't say dexterity. Like stealth is under a dexterity. So like I wouldn't say if you're looking on being a bigger character that's a brute, a dexterity would be a good place to put that other 17. I would put the 17 in probably constitution because that'll get you a lot of HP. The rest of your scores are not as hefty. The 12, the 14, the 10, and the 8.
Okay, so this might just be for no reason, and I'm just gonna go with it with no input from you. I'm putting my 14 in intelligence.
You're going to be a smart brute.
Smart brute.
All right, so we're we're down to a 10 to 12 and an 8.
Let's put a 12 in charisma, maybe.
And now it becomes a question of now it's becoming a question not of which score do you want to buff, it's coming from which score do you want to completely fuck over. I would not recommend making it wisdom.
No, I'll go. Okay, so I'll put what I have a 10. I'll put the 10 in wisdom and the 8 in what's left after that. I'll put the 8 in dexterity then.
All right. I think that tracks with being a Dragonborn. I have a player in one of my campaigns who put the 8 in wisdom, and they have a -1 to every perception roll. Okay. So now from your Dragonborn race, you get a +2 to strength. So you're at a 19 for strength, which is impressive. And you also get a +1 to charisma. So you're at 13 charisma.
I love how that updates real time right in front of me. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So now that we figured that out, now we can figure out your hit dice, your hit points and hit dice. So in the center, you see hit point maximum.
Yep.
There is a box to the direct right of that you can't see because, well, you might be able to see it. I'm in dark mode, so I can't see it. But there is a box directly to the right of hit point maximum. It's a smaller one. So your hit points starting out are 10 plus your constitution modifier. So 10 plus that big 3. So you get 13 in the box to the right of hit point maximum. So you should have 13 in the big box and 13 in the small box. Perfect. You could get beat to shit right now by just about anything, but that's how everybody starts out.
Don't say that. I'm already scared.
All right. So beyond that, there is nothing else we need from race, I don't think. Your base speed is 30. So 30 feet. That's how fast you can walk or run without pushing yourself. That's how far you can move.
Is that good, bad, or in the middle of the road?
It's average. It's average. Elves can typically move 35, if I remember correctly, or maybe it's not elves. But dwarves are cut down to 25 because they got stubby legs. So languages. So if you scroll down to the bottom and you look on the left, there's a box that says other proficiencies in languages.
Yep, I see that.
All right. So click plus.
All right.
And you'll see type, leave that as language,
Okay.
go into proficiency and put the word common. And then click the gear to make that go away.
Okay.
And then hit another plus.
Plus.
And then same deal, language, but this one is draconic. That's it for your race. Now we're going to go through your class. Your class gave you your hit points. All right. And so for being a fighter, your 2 saving throws are strength and constitution, and it's got those checked already. That just adds your proficiency bonus to any saving throws you have to make with those 2, which are typically from an enemy attack. And then you get to pick 2 skills. So the skills that you get to choose from are acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival.
So I have 2 that I'm thinking of that I want to run past you and get your thoughts on. I'm thinking of either just being a total brute and using intimidation, or maybe doing survival.
Okay. So my input is 1. Intimidation is based off of charisma, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
You have a charisma score of +1. And so it's not a bad idea to put it in there. It's just you're not going to get the intimidation from your strength. Just something to make note of. Survival, honestly, I mean, it can be useful in the right situation. It's just not a score that you use every day.
What's your recommendation then?
I always recommend perception. You can never go wrong with having a buff to your perception. And then I think the best bang for your buck out of it would be athletics, because you already have a +4 from strength on it, and then getting that +2 at the start from your proficiency bonus would basically, you would end up being able to pass just about every athletics check I could throw at you by the time that you reach level 20. All right. Perception and athletics. I'm just checking the check mark boxes next to them, and that's what lets Roll20 know that these are proficient. All right. And now we are getting into the kind of nitty gritty of it. So you are starting with equipment. I mean, you can start with chainmail or leather armor. Just depends on how much protection you want versus how fast you move.
So the trade off between the chainmail being more protection and heavier, but the leather being lighter and less protection.
Yes, exactly.
Let's go chainmail. I think if I'm going to be a brute, I need to start off with some good protection.
So you pick the chainmail. So you can either take a martial weapon and a shield, or 2 martial weapons.
What is a
And that I'm
martial
gonna have to,
weapon?
yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to dig through here for. Martial weapons are generally just more showy than simple weapons. You got your glaive, you got your great axe, you got your great sword, you got the halberd, the lance, the long sword, the maul. They are like weapons for fighting. They're weapons you'll see in a war. There's a warhammer, a whip, a war pick, trident, short sword, scimitar.
I have a question then. So you said there was a difference between the martial ones and the other type, and you said, can I only choose between a martial type weapon and a shield and 2 martials because of my class or something?
No, well, yes and no. You are proficient in simple weapons. You can use them. But as a part of your class, it's offering you only martial weapons.
Okay, gotcha. Well, in that case, I for sure want to take a shield. So right off the bat, I don't want to dual wield. I want to take a shield.
Okay. So then you've got to pick 1 martial weapon from in there. And obviously each one has like its own damage and everything that you can see.
I think I'm going to go with a scimitar.
Okay. Good old pirate sword. Now you get to choose between a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or 2 hand axes.
I'll take a light crossbow and 20 bolts.
All right. We're going to have to enter in that crossbow then. So now you're going to choose, you just need to go into your class a little bit more, or we do, and figure out a couple more things with that. So I sent you another list. Those are your fighting styles. So depending on how you want to fight. So there's archery, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, protection, and 2-weapon fighting.
I'm almost thinking of going with dueling if you don't have objections to that.
All right, dueling it is. And that is it for your class. Let me just check over the race again a little bit. Yeah, that's it. It feels a little bare bones right now, but in items there would be other things. There would be gold that we'd roll for too, with from like the pack that you picked. There'd be items, or we'd roll for gold. And there's the characteristics on the right there. And if we were going through like a full campaign, there's personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws that are in there. And those are building the actual personality of your character. Like, what do I want him to be like? Like, there's a random, honestly, we could probably do, if we wanted to go into that, there's random tables for you to roll a 1d10 and get a random one for each one. But like one of my players, his personality trait is he's socially awkward. He never knows what to say. His ideal is to find the one secret that he's been looking for. His bond is to someone. I have one character whose bond is to her brother. And then a flaw is like what corrupts you. But that's basically the only thing we didn't go through is characteristics, like what your character is going to be like. There's also a place to put notes too. So like in the top, you get the age, you get the eye color, size, skin color, height, hair, and weight. And you can write in what you think he looks like. Allies and organizations on the right. I mean, this is pretty much just bookkeeping at this point. How in depth do I want to get with my character's background?
So would this be more so like a part 2 that we would go into on this, kind of, to break that down a little bit?
I mean, we could. I mean, it's not. We could also leave it at this because theoretically, you have your characters like all set. That was character building, is what we just finished up. The spells you won't need because you're not a mage. Everything else, apart from the character name, because I'm assuming you don't want to be Ubao and no die.
Not that I have anything particularly wrong with that, but I want to kind of make my own name.
All right, one of my favorite sites in the world is a random name generator for just about any fantasy race you can think of. Holy shit. I just did it for Dragonborn and I got the most complicated names in the world.
Name a couple. I like that.
The top one is the most complicating name I have ever seen. It is Thakesh Kamertis Benar.
I kind of like it, but that might be a little too fancy for me.
Yeah, Thakesh Kamertis is entirely the first name. No spaces, no hyphens. That is all one first name. Thakesh Kamertis.
Yeah, let's go through a couple more.
There's Mirda Juish, Mirda Juwash,
Mirror to douche.
Mirda Dwash, Belgern. This one's an easy one. Drempad Alilaser, Faxon Dread Aligern, Gleldak.
That sounds like a Star Wars name.
Yeah. Clackies, Arjern.
Clakeys?
Yeah, Clakeys or Clocks. Maybe Clocks. No. Apelic Durtrin, Shembed Pisashi, Thomtek Shagrax, and Depatonus Udochar.
Ooh. Say that one again.
Depatonus Udochar. But Depatnus, it might be Depatnus.
Ooh, either way, that had the ring to it that felt good in my ears.
All right, Depatnus Udochar is the name we're going for.
Hell yeah.
I use this all the time when I'm just making up NPCs. Oh my god, I got another really complicated one. This one's even worse. So this is the complicated name this godforsaken thing gave me this time. Niankishk Mindosh, Lumibarum.
So Nian Kish Mindosh is the first name.
Yes, Niankish Mindosh. Jesus Christ.
Damn.
Or there's Mirjak Margad Padorum. Anyways, we got a name for you. I don't know why I'm still staring at this thing.
That's fun. We could. I could sit and look at that all night. Actually, it's one of those things that are interesting to me.
But yeah, we have your character now, Depatanesh. Oh shit, I should have copied and pasted that.
I was gonna say I do not know anywhere near how to fucking spell that.
All right, Depatinus Ubochar, the Dragonborn character. So yeah, that is basically character sheet in a nutshell. I suppose that's a pretty long nutshell, but that's pretty much character sheet. That you've got a basic character, you've got the equipment, you've got the ability scores and everything. Obviously, it's still probably all Greek to you, but I mean, that's pretty much what you got. I mean,
I got a character. That's
yeah,
a
you got a
start.
character, Depatness. But yeah, you've got a character. All that would be left would be figuring out like a personality for him. And yeah, that is pretty much it.
I'm a little offended that it says I have -1 initiative. What the fuck does that mean? I got initiative.
Yeah. So I realized that after you put the 8 into dexterity, because that's what's happening there. So initiative is combat order first and foremost. So like when a party of 4 goes up against a monster, it's roll initiative, and all members of the party roll the initiative, and the higher roll you get, the more ready you were for combat.
So I'm a brute warrior that's not very ready for combat.
Yes. And also it affects, okay, so maybe dexterity would have been a more important one. It also affects armor class. I forgot it affected both armor class and initiative. So you want to get some heavy armor. On the bright side, you got a really good constitution. But you're gonna have a lot of health, just not a whole lot of ways of protecting yourself.
I'm a brute that can't defend himself.
Ended up more of a barbarian than intended, I guess.
That might be a fun character, actually, in the long run. You never know.
I think I've mentioned my gnome monk. He made it farther than I thought he'd make it. So, I mean.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us again on another episode here. I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm not really familiar with anything here, so everything that we did was knowledge to me. And yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. If you guys enjoyed listening to this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow if you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure to follow us there, and also check our links for our social medias where you can keep up to date on our postings and behind the scenes and clips and all that fun stuff. So thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time.